taking the time to join us for worship here in Craig Chapel on this Wednesday for a service on embodying the Word. I'm going to ask right now that you'll join me in a blessing. Blessed is the one who spoke and the world came into being.
Blessed is the one who creates the world.
Blessed is the one who speaks and does.
Blessed is the one who decrees and fulfills.
Blessed is the one who has compassion for the earth.
Blessed is the one who has compassion for all creatures.
Blessed is the one who rewards those who fear God.
Blessed is the one who lives eternally and exists forever.
Blessed is the one who redeems and saves.
Blessed is the Holy One.
I'm going to ask right now that you'll rise as you are able and join us in singing hymn number 122, God of the Sparrow. And the coastlands wait for his teaching. Amen.
know that September 22nd is Elephant Appreciation Day. It's not on your calendars. Check your calendars. That's very important. Elephant Appreciation Day. I appreciate elephants, even in an election season. I appreciate elephants because once when I was very young and attempted my first dance class, and the teacher kept referring to me in French, and I finally asked someone to translate it and discovered her name for me was My Little Elephant. That ended my dancing career. I appreciate elephants. Once I even had the opportunity to brush shoulders with one, a live one. I mean, it wasn't really shoulders. I mean, it was my shoulder, but the elephant's earlobe tip. I mean, that's the difference in size. And this encounter happened at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine that every October has the blessing of animals. And oh, they have animals. And in this year, the procession of life was being led by the then Bishop of New York, Paul Moore, who was a very tall man, who also, he dressed as a bishop, wore a very tall hat. And he came in greeting the worshipers. And because he was a tall man and very elegant, he was greeting us elegantly. A kind of nod to one side and a nod to the other as he went down the aisle. What he did not know was that the creature behind him was the elephant. And the elephant decided it was Episcopalian, apparently, because the elephant noticed that that was liturgically correct. And so the elephant, with its great ears, was going right behind the bishop. He never figured out the laughter. It wasn't because of his hat. So I had this living brush of encounter, and it was like a kiss of peace. Oh, what would the world be without elephants? I don't know. I went, in fact, looked for one of my favorite elephant stories. Not the Who one, but Hatches an Egg. And if you don't know this, I'll summarize the first part of the book, which is this elephant named Horton gets caught in an existential dilemma with a very flighty bird who is tired of sitting on her egg and wants a vacation. And she wants the elephant to sit on the egg while she gets a break. Well, so the inevitable happens. Horton says, I can't. The bird says, please. Then the inevitable does happen when it comes to elephants, who are kind-hearted in this series. And the bird flies away, and Horton has to figure out how to prop the tree up to hold an elephant's weight. And so when that's done, I'll stand here. Then carefully, tenderly, gently, he crept up the trunk to the nest where the little egg slept. Then Horton, the elephant, smiled. Now, that's that. And he sat, and he sat, and he sat, and he sat. He sat all that day, and he kept the egg warm. And he sat all that night through a terrible storm. It poured and it lightened, it thundered. Does this sound familiar? It rumbled. This isn't much fun. The poor elephant grumbled. I wish he'd come back, because I'm cold and I'm wet. I hope that that mazy bird doesn't forget. Well, now, if you are interested in narrative preaching, this is called Engage the Complications. She does not come in. So, Horton kept sitting there day after day. And soon it was autumn. The leaves blew away. Then the snow and the sleet, and icicles hung from his trunk and his feet. But Horton kept sitting and said, with a sneeze, "I'll stay on this egg. I won't let it freeze. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. So poor Horton sat there the whole winter through, and then came the springtime with troubles anew. His friends gathered round, and they shouted with glee, "Look, Horton the elephant's up in a tree." They taunted, they teased him, they yelled, "How absurd! Old Horton the elephant thinks he's a bird." They laughed, and then they all ran away. And Horton was lonely. He wanted to play, but he sat on the egg and continued to say, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faith, 100%. No matter what happens, the egg must be tender." It's interesting that soup sounds so Christological, or is it just me? But poor Horton's troubles were far, far from ended. For while Horton sat there so faithful, so kind, 3 hunters came sneaking up, softly, behind. He heard the men's footsteps. He turned with a start. 3 rifles were aiming right straight at his heart. Why in the world would you read this story to a child?
New York Times, September 8th, 2012. Garamba National Park, Democratic Republic of Congo. In 30 years of fighting poachers, Paul Onyango had never seen anything like this. 22 dead elephants, including several very young ones, clumped together on the open savanna, many killed by a single bullet to the top of the head. There were no tracks leading away, no sign that the poachers had stalked their prey from the ground. The tusks had been hacked away, but none of the meat, and subsistence poachers almost always carved themselves a little meat for the walk home. Several days later, in early April, the Garamba National Park guards spotted a Ugandan military helicopter flying very low over the park on an unauthorized flight. But they said it abruptly turned around after being detected. Park officials, scientists, and the Congolese authorities now believe that the Ugandan military, one of the Pentagon's closest partners in Africa, killed the 22 elephants from a helicopter and spirited away more than $1 million worth of ivory. They were good shots, very good shots, said Mr. Onyango, Garamba's chief ranger. They even shot the babies. Why? It was like they came here to destroy everything. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the earth and they who dwell therein.
Africa is in the midst of an epidemic elephant slaughter. Conservation groups say poachers are wiping out tens of thousands of elephants a year. More than any time in the previous 2 decades, with the underground ivory trade becoming increasingly militarized. Like blood diamonds from Sierra Leone or plundered minerals from Congo, ivory, it seems, is the latest conflict resource in Africa. Dragged out of remote battle zones, easily converted into cash, and now fueling conflicts across the continent. Some of Africa's most notorious armed groups, including the Lord's Resistance Army, the Shabab and Darfur Janjaweed are hunting down elephants and using the tusks to buy weapons and sustain their mayhem. Organized crime syndicates are linking up with them to move the ivory around the world, exploiting turbulent states, porous borders, and corrupt officials from sub-Saharan Africa to China. Law enforcement officials say. But it is not just outlaws cashing in. Members of some of Africa's armies that the American government trains and supports with millions of taxpayers' dollars, like the Ugandan military, the Congolese army, and newly independent South Sudan military, have been implicated in poaching elephants and dealing in ivory. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, and there is they that dwell therein.